Oh, my camera went away. Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm gonna have to hit the little thing.
Okay, so we are getting set up. This is behind the scenes, us getting set up. And we're excited to show you inside the metaverse with some worlds that we created. We got some folks joining the Zoom. And so we're going to ask that they mute themselves as they enter. Okay. And are you able? So I have to turn my mic off in the metaverse. So hi, everybody. It's Lakeisha, founder of Wearable Tech Ventures here. I'm really excited because we're with our official media sponsor, the Baltimore Times. And we're doing something pretty special where we are giving you a preview of what it's like inside the metaverse with some of the worlds that we've created. And we've got some special guests. So I'm going to pass it over to Paris Brown. And so while she's speaking, you'll see me showing you different things and taking photos. And, you know, if some folks enter here with me, you'll be able to see what they look like. But in the meantime, I'll also take some selfies in this space and just give you a tour of one of the worlds that we created. So Paris, you know what? We have a couple folks that are entering the meeting. So we're going to ask that if they are not here as of right now, that they just watch live on YouTube, because I cannot transition and go back and make you co-host right now. All right. So Paris, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hello, hello. We are so excited to be part of Hackathon 2022. We want to thank Wearable Technologies and Lakeisha Greenwade for this awesome opportunity to look at news in the metaverse. So we're excited to be live here, and we have a real exciting guest, business owner, tech founder that's joining us today to share about her company. I had the privilege of meeting her during the CIAA Tech Summit, and this sister is dope. She is the founder of Dope Nerds. And so I want to introduce Ursula Spencer, and hopefully you'll be able to see her. And I want Ursula to tell us what and who are Dope Nerds.
Thank you so much, Paris, for having me today. I am like super stoked to be a part of this. Thank you, Lakeisha and the Wearable Tech Ventures team for establishing a forum for us nerds and geeks and dope nerds to get together. I'm just super excited. So Dope Nerds, we're striving to become a premier distributor in VR content for gaming and education, or what we like to call Dope Nerds edutainment. So kind of taking education and spinning it on its head. We're familiar with traditional education, right? We come from the school of textbooks, and, you know, especially in tech, we're like reading textbooks, you know, that are sort of like Bible scroll size. So we're looking to get into private and charter schools across the country, teaching VR, teaching how to create content for VR, and other disciplines within tech.
So that's super exciting. And I did a little research here at the Baltimore Times. We were working on it.
Oh, Paris, you just went, you muted yourself.
Several things. One was that African Americans saw gaming as team building and working together. And could you talk a little bit about the impact of gaming, and particularly in our population?
Oh, sure. So although, and I'm not known to mince my words, so I will do my best. Do my best to be PC. But what we all know in tech, that there's a diversity and inclusion issue with people of color in general, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately in 2022, we're still having these conversations. And so that also has, you know, sort of the sticking point around gaming as well. Even, okay, my cat always decides to join us during calls. So
That's okay.
yeah, it's one of those days. And so that sort of stigma, if you would, exists around gaming as well. There happens to be a large population of Black and Brown folks who are into gaming and love gaming, and that's inclusive of VR, virtual reality, believe it or not. However, when you look, if you're on the outside, right, if you're not sort of like super immersed into this discipline of tech, you would not know that, you know, there is a population of us that's heavy into it, because why? Of the marketing and advertising that we see still is not inclusive of brown folks, right? And so part of what, you know, our mission is representation. I know it's probably a cliche term at this point, but it is reputation. Representation does matter. Seeing someone that looks like you, and it doesn't matter if it's like inspirational or aspirational, but just knowing that there's someone that looks like you and maybe have the same journey as you is so important, especially for our youth. So that's part of Dope Nerds' mission as well, to you know, really pump people of color into the forefront of, you know, sort of like this Web3 or the next evolution of the internet and the web.
And that's super exciting, and I'm glad that you're taking the lead in doing that. And you're right, we're underrepresented. When you look at the marketing, you're absolutely right. But that's not the only area that we're underrepresented in. We also, in terms of the app development, while we enjoy the gaming, there's a huge gap. We enjoy it just like our counterparts, but at the same time, we're not involved in that app development. Can we talk about how you believe Dope Nerds and your edutainment program really addresses the issue of interest and app development? Game development, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure, and it is all tied together, right? So our specific curriculum, STEM-based curriculum or workshops are around, yes, VR, but it kind of stretches out to all these other disciplines as well, right? So to your point, there is a form of app development because students will get to learn code, or there is an iteration of even entrepreneurship because they'll learn how to hone those skills. They'll learn how to hone those skills and then translate that into maybe being a consultant or maybe be inspired to just establish or nurture a career in tech, right? So although we're kind of centric in VR, right? It has all of these other legs if you think of it like an octopus. And so they'll get to touch all these different other areas of tech. And one key thing I want to point out, how can I say this? So I don't want any app developers to come for me or any developers to come for me after this, but because, you know, everyone that has their niche it's a really tight-knit community, but coding is not the only way that you can get into tech, right? It's not the only way that you can break into tech. And so Dope Nerds, through our edutainment and through our workshops and programming, want to expose and maybe even inspire to look at all the other disciplines surrounding technology and kind of getting into the tech industry, because everyone assumes that you have to have all of this coding and development experience in order to have a career in tech. So we want to kind of tweak that mindset a little bit so that they open themselves up to other opportunities in the industry.
Yeah, I was actually doing some research, and I know Montgomery College is one of the few colleges that has gaming and tech development, and they talk about the applicability of of gaming and virtual reality in mathematics and in
Yeah.
medicine. And so there are about, I think, 10 or 12 disciplines that we traditionally wouldn't think about that's totally related to gaming, right? And the other careers. And so you're absolutely right. It's interesting because it's another way of learning. It's another way of developing content. And so yeah, that was pretty interesting, pretty exciting to learn about, that. So I know that, so there, you're looking at middle schools, high schools, after school programs, STEM based. How do you see that developing?
Oh, so that's a really great question. When we, as we were curating the program and curating sort of like what we think a solid curriculum would be, we decided to select one of the major platforms in developing games, in developing metaverse. So you see how you mentioned that there are these other disciplines kind of attached to app development or even game development. And so we are, we'll be pulling in Unity, which is a engine. So I want you to think of like the train. And so they're one of the platform, and like, if you were to think of a train, they're the engine of that train that kind of gets it moving, right? And what we'll be teaching and within the workshops with the students is how to build on that particular engine. So for instance, there's other engines like Unreal, which is a really popular gaming engine as well. And so here, and no one is better than the other. There are pros and cons to any realm of tech, right? And so in teaching the kids this particular platform, that actually can take them into other realms of tech. So let me give you an example. Although we'll be showing them how to create content for virtual reality, there are also 3D assets associated with that. Well, you would be able to use this Unity platform in order to create these 3D assets that then can be added to your content for VR. The other component to that is students would be able to sell the assets that they create on on an asset store that then other developers can purchase for their projects and so forth. So you see how that small sort of like rock turns into a boulder of just opportunity for these students, for middle school and high school students, to get into so many different areas of tech, but also be on the cusp of the future, right? Where, yes, everyone is familiar with virtual reality from a gaming perspective, right? Because that is what, if we were to kind of break down the companies that have been heavily involved, that's Meta for the Oculus, right? I have my Oculus here, right? But then there are other companies that have VR headsets, and yes, all in the gaming realm. But what Dope Nerds is looking to do is show all the other use cases where virtual reality and using VR headsets can be leveraged. And so the STEM-based program is just one way that we're able to showcase that.
So what exactly would the learning environment look like? So are we doing this all in the metaverse, or is it a combination of classroom? Like how do you envision what that would look like?
Sure. So we're currently in a mobile, what we like to call a mobile VR capacity. And what that means is we bring the technology, the content, the devices, we bring all of that to the client. So we would be able to bring that to the classroom, an in-person session where we would house those sessions in I'm saying classroom, but we can hold it in a lunchroom, we can hold it in a gym, wherever there's ventilation and AC, right? Especially during these humid days, we're able to facilitate these workshops and programs, or even after school programs. And I know you and I talked about, and a light bulb went off for both of us, the library, right?
Yeah.
We'll be able to, right? We will be able to facilitate these types of workshops in libraries as well. So it is an in-person workshop, we can facilitate up to 30 kids. There was an opportunity we had on the table for up to 60 kids. So we are able to facilitate up to that amount as well. And how we would break that up is Dope Nerds, we believe here at Dope Nerds, we believe in team building, and just working in teams is so very important. And so we would, if there is a large class outside of the 30, we would be able to break those students up and participants up into teams. And then in those teams, they would come up with what kind of content they want to create for VR. And while they're learning how to create this content, they're also learning how to utilize 360-degree cameras, or what the short version, 360-degree cameras, which is another component, right, of content for virtual reality. So the other sort of the overarching of it would be across 6 sessions. And in those 6 sessions is learning the history about the tech, which is important. I think people kind of, some programs kind of just jump right in, which is fantastic, but we like to have at least one session where we're focused on the history of the tech and actually engage in some conversations and discussions around, all right, as fantastic as this technology is, what are some of, like the touch points, what about diversity and inclusion? What about safety? So we also teach the students and engage the students in conversations and kind of, diverse thought is very important, right? And kind of get their insight and view on what they think, about virtual reality moving forward. And then fast forward to the 6th session is where we have the student or participant showcase. And that's where these teams will be able to showcase what they've created over those 6 sessions in VR.
That's really great. Now, I'm always excited about our youth and all of these creative ideas. How do you, if you have a group of youth, they come up with this great idea, how do you protect in that space intellectual property? Now, and I know that's a big thing right now with wearable technology. That's one of their missions, to ensure that they protect the tech founders' IP.
That is super important, and I'm glad that's a touching point for them, and an important component of what they're trying to teach, kids kind of coming in, or just their audience coming in. And IP is huge for Dope Nerds. I'm not sure if you can actually see behind me, but I actually have one of our trademarks on our library. So that, as part of entrepreneurship, is one of the first things that we would share. You have to protect, you can't necessarily protect ideas, right? And I'm putting my fingers in air quotes, because you couldn't hire an attorney and say, hey, this is my idea, go trademark it. But you can trademark the proprietary components of that idea. So the name, so for instance, Dope Nerds is a registered trademark with the, a full register. So we're using the R. And let me break that down a little bit too. So you will see the R behind some names, and you will see the TM. And I'll start with the TM. So the TM will allow for you, it's not binding, right? It's not saying that you're registered with the United States, Trademarks and Patent and Copyright Office, but it is showing intent, right? That you came up with this name, you're using it in commerce, you're using it in business, etc. Until you submit those applications to secure that trademark, anyone can pull it up. Or anyone can register it. So you then couldn't claim that someone is necessarily stealing your name, because if you didn't register it according to the government, then it doesn't belong to you, kind of thing. So these are hard lessons to learn, right? Paris,
I have to learn that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn. So, we always want to protect the youth, right? We try to save them from, pain points that maybe we had to encounter in building our businesses or building our careers. So yeah, that is one of the areas that we'll get to chat with them about as part of creating this content, that they own the content. And if they wanted to, kind of take that content further, what are some of the steps and aligning them with resources for them to be able to move forward in securing the IP for whatever they create. So that's a fantastic question.
And that's very important because you have people that have literally, and we've heard the stories about how people literally stole millions, right?
Yes.
You're having a conversation, you come in, I've had that often happen to me, and all of a sudden they're funded and they're doing they're executing your idea. Now I see a little hand here, so all this technology is new. I'm not sure if that's my hand or someone else's hand. We're in a virtual space, all kinds of things happen. So I want to expand on your product offering, because you also, in addition to the edutainment piece, let me get that right. You also do private and corporate events, right? And so tell us a little bit about that and what that looks like.
Oh, sure. So for the private and corporate events, it's very similar in model in that, sure, the overarching is in education, but for that model, it's more on the gaming or fun side. And it's not that education isn't fun. Education is totally fun. And that's what, Dope Nerds is all about, right? Like, we don't want people to think that, oh, education is boring. We want to kind of, remove, that mindset, right? So for the private and corporate component, similar, where we would bring the entertainment to you. We would bring the VR immersive experiences to you. So literally we arrive at your venue or your event. We stand up our step and repeat, like Dope Nerds is in the house. And then we have the VRs there. And it's just really fire and go. We get the headsets onto the participants. Now, I want to sidebar a little bit. What's fantastic about when we do execute at private events or even corporate events is that we roll in a 65-inch television so that spectators who are not wearing the VR headset, and this is just one type of headset that we have. We actually have two other models of VR headset outside of the Oculus. And so we actually project what's going on inside the VR headset onto a large screen, or even onto a 100-inch projector screen. And that's so that spectators who are not wearing a headset, they're able to see what's going on and get excited. What we've noticed is that there is still a population of people who are not familiar with VR, right? They've heard the term, but they've never experienced it. So the draw has been showcasing what is going on in the VR. And maybe if they had a little bit of hesitation, now they're excited. Now they're like, whoa, that's what you see. I want to try it now. And so with those type of events, we could do something like gaming. So we can curate the type of content that based on your business goals of what you want to see, what you want your participants or your attendees to have. So if it's gaming, we'll come up with, and I have like an MC, we'll come up with a fun game of like Beat Saber, for example, where everyone is challenging each other to kind of hit, these musical shapes. Or we could do something that's team building and this actually is a fantastic experience. So I want you to imagine that you are on like maybe a small retreat. And so your colleague, let's say Paris, you have on the VR headset, and then your colleagues are sitting around you. Inside of the VR, and then this is projected onto the screen. So what they'll see is that it's your job, Paris, to dismantle a bomb, but your colleagues have to give you the guidance to dismantle that bomb before it goes off. And it just yields team building. And we know being in, having been in corporate before, how we used to like dread those team building exercises, but this is what makes it fun, right? Now we're not just sitting in a room listening to a subject matter expert tell us what we need to do in order to, be closer as a team. Now there's an immersive experience that Dope Nerds can provide in order to make that happen. And not only is it fun, but then you do have that sense of closeness because of how immersive the experience is.
And the bomb is ticking. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
It builds the ultimate trust too.
Yes.
So And in that same immersive experience, you talked about relaxation and how, and I did recently see a CNN special. I'm sorry, it may have been MSNBC, where they had elderly people. So they're lonely, right? And one of the things that we were made for as human beings is interaction. And so you were sharing with me another initiative that you had that would help, and it prolongs life, right? Being able to interact with people, and the virtual reality experience can help that with that. Can you share a little bit about that project that you'll be working on?
Oh, sure. So we are certainly looking to partner with entities who are interested in, helping our seniors flourish, right? We're living longer. We're living into our hundreds, 100, we're seeing more people live into 102, 105. And that's happening around the world, right? And so why not extend that life, with some, much needed woosah, especially with with everything going on in the world, with everything going on in the world, Dope Nerds as an organization, we've deeply explored into and have already partnered with a meditation or wellness developer for meditation. And what we have seen is one, how effective it is, like literally is the only way that I meditate now. And if you never learned, if you don't know how to meditate, what's fantastic about these VR immersive meditation apps and experiences is that it will teach you. So one of our initiatives is to team up with an organization where we could bring this to our seniors and help with their wellness. And maybe it's not the fitness component, but we can certainly kind of like get their gears going again and just get them into a state of calm, right? Because there is a lot of anxiety with our seniors out in this world, right? We do live in an ageist society, right? We do. And so this is just another way to, kind of bring them back into the fold and know that they're not forgetting about. So it's really fantastic. And there are a ton of reports and statistics that show how effective virtual reality meditation has been for not only seniors, but other ailments that might have to do with the mind or depression or anxiety. So, yeah.
So we are getting ready to close out, but we cannot close out until you tell us about this Baltimore Comic-Con and all these superheroes you created and the fun and the opportunity for people to experience VR right here in Baltimore. Let's talk about that.
Yes, thank you so much, Paris. We are so stoked. Like, I want to do one of those Tom Cruise moments of standing on the desk without hopefully breaking it, but that's how excited, like I have goosebumps when you talk about, aspirations and dreams. I would have never thought that just as a woman of color, as a Black woman in tech, a Black woman in the VR arcade space, that we would have an opportunity to be at such a huge event, such as Comic-Con, let alone in Baltimore. Although it's not my home, I feel like home here. So to make Comic-Con Baltimore or Baltimore Comic-Con the first Comic-Con that we attend is huge for us. And what you see behind me is Ursula. And so we will introduce, and you see what we did there? We will introduce who Ursula is. And it's part of that representation conversation that we had. So yes, you'll be able to come to our booth. You'll be able to experience some fun games. You'll get to see a little bit of our edutainment component. And then you also get to win some prizes. We will have exclusive Baltimore Comic-Con merch at the event. So jackets like this, they're designed in-house. So jackets like this that say Dope Nerds, with Baltimore Comic-Con patches, we're hyped. So yes, do come down. Is October 28th to the 30th. I may have the end date wrong, but yes, definitely the 28th. So come down for sure at the Baltimore Convention Center.
and check them out. And I heard that these are limited edition pieces. So I'm
Yes.
putting in my order right now.
We
For
got to get you a Dope Nerds jacket.
right, check it out. So we are so excited again. I thank you, Ursula. We're
Thank you.
looking forward to Baltimore Times of talking to you, supporting you,
Thank
promoting your
you.
business. That's what we do. And of course, Lakeisha, thank you. This is
Thank
super
you.
awesome. And we look forward to more of these interviews in the metaverse. So, guys, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And thank you for tuning in to the Baltimore Times. We are 36 years of positive news in the Baltimore community. We are part of the National Newspaper Publishers Association and the National Black Press of America. Thank you.
Yes, and Paris, before we log off, I just want to tie how all of this ties to the Wearable Tech Ventures ecosystem. So
Yes.
that's what Wearable Tech Ventures is. We are the official ecosystem dedicated to the development and promotion of wearable technology. And virtual reality is one of those key components. And I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to hear Ursula's story, because she's in alignment with where we're going. In 2022, actually in January, we determined that our youth program would focus on the VR app development. And so they've been doing that all this year. And ultimately, as we expand that, it's good to know that you can now, of course, you're in that space as a founder in the ecosystem, but it's good that we know we have an arm where we can help expand that, because the ultimate goal is so that as we have all of these other large companies that are looking for these app developers, they know they could come to Wearable Tech Ventures, and we have partners and we have our own programs where they can come and recruit these particular people. And not only the big companies, but even small businesses and other startups that are looking for that talent. So that's one of the purposes that Wearable Tech Venture serves. And if you're at that virtual hackathon this week, you might be saying, where's the youth? They have their own private session. So they have their own private room. Everybody cannot access them. And their focus this week has been on gaming and VR and the metaverse development. And we do have a track where the adults are hacking away this week on VR gaming and the metaverse. And we're talking about breaking down the barriers to access in a couple of different ways. So you'll be able to hear some of those solutions and maybe some things that we can all collaborate with in this ecosystem, because there's enough room for all of us. And the more that we work together, the greater we can reach and make sure that we are limiting the digital divide, eliminating the digital divide, and then also making sure that when they think about talent, this is where they come.
Absolutely. And can you just share a little bit, Lakeisha, about on Friday, right? They'll be pitching these ideas. So what's happening on Friday?
So Friday, actually, there will be some pitches done on Thursday evening and Friday morning. And we're having our closing ceremony, and we have judges from Johns Hopkins University. We also have judges from Under Armour and AAAS. And so our teams will get some feedback, and then we'll do some assessment here from the advisory team at Wearable Tech Ventures to determine if there's some talent that we actually want to take under our arm and help develop and help support them. And so for those folks that are here at Tech Remixed this week, they'll be able to meet some of our Wearable Tech Ventures founder ambassadors. And these are founders that we're actually working with. And we had a wonderful report. You'll get to meet one of our founders from Brazil, where they've actually got some funding and they're going to come to the USA next year to work with us. But we have our founders here from the USA, from Baltimore, from Tennessee, also from Canada, from Sweden, and from Brazil. So we have all those folks here this week with us. So they will be able to hear those success stories and get on-site mentoring from our entire community, which is absolutely awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. We're going to stop streaming in just a second.
And they can see this again, right? This will be on demand, right? So if you missed it, check it out again and again and again.